Did you know that some ordinary people are quietly living off interest alone, without lifting a finger? Today, I'm breaking down exactly how they do it. I've studied over 100 real-life stories, so you don't have to. And in this video, you'll learn the brutal truth about living off interest, the exact strategy these people use to generate passive income, and 3 practical steps anyone can take to start doing the same. Let's say you want to live off $80,000 a year, no job, no side hustle, just your money working for you. If your returns are 2% a year, you'd need $4 million. If you earn 4%, that drops to $2 million. At 6%, you'd need around $1.3 million. Sounds doable, right? On paper, those numbers don't seem too crazy. They feel like something you could reach one day. But here's the thing. Most people are thinking about this the wrong way because there are 3 problems you absolutely can't ignore if you want to live off interest. Let's look at the first one. Over the last 10 years, interest rates around the world have dropped sharply. The US cut rates more than once. Japan stayed stuck in negative territory. Europe hovered near zero, or even below it. There was a spike after 2020, but by 2024, a lot of countries started cutting again. And you might be thinking, fine, interest rates go up and down in cycles. Then here's the second problem, and it's a big one. In 2025, the global cost of living went up by 4.2%. That's higher than what most savings accounts or bonds are paying. Rent in some cities is up nearly 40% since 2020. Medical bills are still rising. College, forget about it. It's outpacing even the stock market. And here's the third problem. We're living longer, which sounds good. But financially, it changes everything. You need your money to stretch 30, maybe 40 years. And every extra year you live means your capital has to grow another 10% just to keep up. Living on interest sounds simple, but it's actually kind of brutal. Low returns, rising prices, longer lives. You need a much bigger pile of money than most people realize. So how do people actually live off interest? What does that look like in real life? In general, there are 3 main types of portfolios people use. The first one is for people who like to play it safe. They stick with steady, low-risk options like big bank CDs, term deposits, government bonds, bond funds, and high-interest savings accounts. These don't give huge returns, usually somewhere between 2 to 4% a year, but the upside is they're stable. And that's exactly what some folks want. They sleep like a baby because their money isn't bouncing around with the stock market. This is called a conservative portfolio. It gives you stability and peace of mind. But the downside is the interest is pretty modest. That means, at a 3% return, you need about $2 million just to live off $60,000 a year. That's a big hill to climb. And that's why some people choose a different path. They go for something a little more aggressive. Take David, for example. He splits his money like this: 10% in cash for flexibility, 50% in a stock index fund for long-term growth, and 40% in bonds for modest income and a cushion when stocks dip. Thanks to this balance, David earns about $60,000 a year at a 5% return, without selling his investments and without stressing over market swings. It's a middle path. Not too risky, not too cautious. Meet Daniel. He's in his early 60s, retired from a long, high-pressure sales career. After decades of grinding, Daniel didn't just want freedom. He wanted joy, to enjoy the money he spent his whole life earning. So, while most retirees play it safe, Daniel chose a different path. He put nearly everything into a stock market index fund. It's a bold move. On average, it returns 7 to 10% a year. But in bad years, it can drop 30% or more. That doesn't bother Daniel. He keeps a small cash buffer, just enough to cover 2 years of expenses. The rest, he lets it ride. Some years, his portfolio grows faster than he can spend it. Other years, it shrinks. But Daniel's okay with that, because growth matters more to him than stability. And to him, retirement isn't about cutting back. It's about finally enjoying what he worked so hard to build. Now we've covered the 3 types of portfolios. The next question is the big one. How do ordinary people build a portfolio big enough to live off interest? It starts with something simple but powerful: awareness. Tracking what you earn and what you spend. Then comes discipline. You cut back on things you don't need, not to punish yourself, but to create breathing room, room to save, room to build. Next, you face your debt, head on, credit cards, small loans. You chip away at them one by one, because debt is like a slow leak. If you don't plug it, it drains your freedom. You pick up extra shifts, maybe a weekend side gig, and every extra dollar goes straight into savings. It's not easy. Some months feel like you're moving inches, not miles, but stay consistent, and things change. Your savings start to grow, slowly at first, then faster. As interest kicks in, your money starts to move on its own. That's the turning point, where effort becomes momentum, and momentum becomes wealth. But here's the truth. Saving money isn't enough. If you want real freedom, your money has to grow. That's where the second action comes in. Invest it. Let it compound over time. But how do you do that without big risks or a finance degree? Let's break it down. When you start investing, one thing becomes clear fast. Your age shapes your strategy. If you're in your 20s or 30s, time is your advantage. You can afford more risk, like stocks, index funds, or ETFs. Over decades, markets fluctuate, but tend to grow overall. Some people go with simple, low-cost ETFs, like the Vanguard Total World Stock ETF or the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. They're diversified and built for long-term growth. Start early, stay consistent. Even small amounts can grow into real wealth. But if you're 5 years from retirement, your focus shifts. You still want growth, but now you need protection. A balanced mix, about 60% stocks, 30% bonds, and 10% cash, can give you growth with less risk. For bonds, many use low-cost ETFs like the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF or the Total International Bond ETF. They help steady your portfolio when the market gets bumpy. In retirement, safety is key. You shift more into bonds and cash, maybe 50% bonds, 30% stocks, and 20% cash for stable, predictable income. The key at every stage, adjust your mix as life changes. Don't time the market. Build a strategy that fits you. Then comes the third step. You retire. Live off $60,000 a year from your investments. It feels amazing until it doesn't. Expenses creep up, stress builds. You wonder, did I plan this right? So you downsize, cut back, and feel something unexpected. Relief, peace, control. Because freedom isn't about spending more. It's knowing you'll never be forced to work again. But here's one more thing. Rich people do things differently, but not the way you think.